Now, 4 years ago, I first learnt about the Kākābeak. It's one of Aotearoa's most beautiful native plants, but back in 2020, there were only 138 known originals left in the wild. Now, while I was on a family holiday, I got to visit a commercial native plant nursery in Whakatane, and I was talking to the owner about how I'd been trying to grow some native kōwhai seeds that I'd collected around my neighbourhood. They grew about 10 centimetres tall, and then they all died. I was also telling the owner about how I'd learnt about the Kākābeak and loved the shape of the beautiful red flowers. And this turned into her gifting me some kōwhai and Kākābeak seeds, which turned into me designing my very own greenhouse, which I built with my dad. And then I got to sell these plants to not only my local fair, but also my local Maireton and Twiglands nursery. But although 13-year-old me was thrilled to have made over $2,500 in profit, I was shocked to find myself with hundreds of plastic pots left everywhere in my garden. And I found out that this is a nationwide issue. Every year, New Zealand gardeners and nurseries use an estimated 350 million plastic pots. That's 350 million every single year, and in little Aotearoa alone. What's worse is that an estimated 50 million of these plastic pots will go to the landfill after just a single use. And that's 17 million kilograms of plastic waste. But why can't plastic pots be reused? I thought they were durable and therefore reusable. But that's when I found out that plastic pots can be a biosecurity risk as they spread harmful diseases through contaminated soils. Now, a few weeks ago, I was speaking to a farmer who did some planting of native trees on his farm, and they had to go by helicopter. And after spending hours planting all these trees, they had to walk back and pick up every individual plastic pot they'd used, take them back with them on the helicopter, transfer them to a truck, and then drive them to the landfill. So, aside from the fact that this is wasting plastic, it's now also wasting the farmer's time and money. But what if there was a special type of plant pot that you could put straight into the ground with the plant and leave it there? This would save time, money, and plastic, because maybe the pot doesn't need to be plastic at all. So I had this idea, and now it's time to find out if it exists or if it's possible. And I found that biodegradable plant pots do exist, but they're not working. Reason one is that most of them are at a price point that makes them uneconomical for this use. They're too expensive. Other options are made from unsustainable resources, such as a plant known as peat. Peat is grown in swamps and bogs, which are carbon sinks. So when you harvest this plant, you stir up the carbon sink, and all the emissions get released into the atmosphere. So the current best option has to be imported all the way in from Europe. So the New Zealand nurseries don't want to buy them because it's sub-expensive, and the carbon footprint defeats the whole purpose. Now, at the time that I had learnt all about this, a lady had come into my school talking about the Young Enterprise Scheme. It's a nationwide business competition for high school students to create real-life businesses to solve real-life problems. So now I had this opportunity to get mentorship through this YES program, and I had the problem of plastic pots that I knew needed to be solved. So I joined the two, and I founded Enivo Pots, aiming to create biodegradable plant pots made from primary industry waste and forestry waste. Now, my first proof of concept was great for me to talk to the nurseries and talk to business mentors. I used my family kitchen scissors to individually cut up wood shavings, which I then boiled, and then I chucked them in our food processor with about 2 cups of flour for baking, and I hit go, and I made a huge mess, and I destroyed the food processor, But after moulding the mush around some pots, I had my first physical biodegradable pot. The next proof of concept was a huge step up, and I was able to trial 5 different ratios of my forestry mix. And we moulded the mix over the back of beakers and dried them in the oven. But the most recent round of prototyping was a huge success. We made 115 of these cute little pots using a mold that I custom designed and got 3D printed, and we used the formula that had worked best in the previous trial. We now have 90 of these pots being tested in nurseries in both the North and South Islands. But how did I do all this? Well, 12 months ago, I was lucky enough to get connected to Scion, which is a Crown Research Institute that specializes in forestry and wood products. And through a grant that I received through AgMart, I was able to go to their facility in Rotorua and work with their incredible scientists and commercialization and innovation experts. So not only did they inspire and teach me so much, but they helped me create my first actual pots. All of this even led me to winning 3rd place at the National Young Enterprise Scheme Finals, as well as the MB and MPI awards. But now it's crunch time. Over the next few months, I'm planning a bit of a road trip because I want to go and visit nurseries in person. I want to make sure that the thing I'm trying to make is actually going to solve the problem that nurseries are facing. Different nurseries might have different requirements depending on where they are in the country, or even the types or quantities of plants that they're producing. This is also my first of 3 conferences that I plan to speak at as more opportunities to engage with the industry. And that's because my goal for the next year is to set up a pilot trial. I want to work with a New Zealand company to produce 10,000 of my Enivo Pots that I can distribute to nurseries so that they can test to make sure we're creating the right thing before we go all in. Because wouldn't it be great if planting native trees didn't consequently produce millions of kilos of plastic waste? As mentioned earlier, planting trees is one of our most effective ways to combat the climate crisis and restore biodiversity. So that's why I'm on a bit of a mission. I'm on a mission to be a kaitiaki for Aotearoa and protect and restore our native flora and fauna. I want to stop the 17 million kilograms of plastic waste going to the landfill because of plastic pots. I want to find a way to make use of our underutilized primary industry waste and forestry waste. And Enivo Pots wants to be a part of encouraging Kiwis to create value-added products right here in Aotearoa from raw materials generated right here in Aotearoa. And all of this is possible right here, right now. Will you join the mission? Thank you.